Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. If you have a mom, you'll love our podcasts. Here are your hosts, former Fox News political correspondent Joel Waldman and his mom, Carmela, a licensed marriage therapist and Holocaust survivor.
Well, we're at it again, Carm. I believe we're up in the high 30s now with our episodes, getting on close to season 3 here. I'm feeling pretty good today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling terrific.
I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling optimistic.
This cannot be. I hope he's not dying today.
You keep telling me I can't die young anymore.
That I assure you.
Carm, there was one funny moment on the drive over here today.
No, you're not gonna bring it up.
You were having trouble. You were having a usual senior moment, having trouble remembering what you were trying to say.
I am going to talk now. Stop right here now. Stop right here. I tried to tell you I had no senior moment. I tried to tell you because now we are at the crossroads. And we have to decide which way we are going with this podcast. What is our real message? What is going on here? And I thought of it and I wanted to share it with you. And you absolutely couldn't focus and you didn't want to hear it. And you interrupted me and then it flew out of my mind. Then it flew back again a few minutes later.
While that was going on, you told me to be absolutely silent. And
yeah, because then I can gather my thoughts.
While you were asking for that silence, I had a momentary lapse of attention span, and I said to you, do you know William Shatner's 90 and he's going into space today?
Is that appropriate to say that to me?
And then you said to me, and you screamed, and you said something that rhymes with truck, and you said truck Shatner. Is that normal for you?
No. It was a carriage. Not a truck, a carriage.
So, Carm, you eventually figured out what you were going to say.
Because you let me express myself. Joel has a problem with dialogues.
So listen, on the show today, we've got a really interesting, funny guest, a guy I know personally, Dr. Jonathan Silberstein of Memorial Healthcare System, one of the top urologists in the entire United States of America, went to Penn undergrad, grew up in Manhattan, top of his class.
No, he's the head. He's the head cancer urologist, and that's the best hospital in town.
He did his residency at Sloan Kettering. He's an expert in all things related to urology and cancer, but he's also the man who knows more about penises than just about anyone. And
you know what? How men are all their lives they are like totally involved with their penises.
We're about to learn about penises. Stand by for the main schmooze with Dr. Jonathan Silberstein.
Do you want to help my son? His company, Content Partners Media, specializes in brand video and content creation for innovative companies and others. Please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com and hire him. I repeat, please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com.
Welcome back to Surviving the Survivor. It's time now for the main schmooze.
Today, we have a man that knows more about penises than anyone you will ever meet. We welcome to the show urologist Dr. Jonathan Silberstein, MD. How are you, John?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm going to call you John, but let's tell the audience about you. Dr. Jonathan Silberstein is Chief of Urologic Oncology at Memorial Healthcare System in South Florida. He cares for patients with urological malignancies, including prostate cancer, bladder cancer, kidney cancer. Is it testes or testis cancer, John?
Depends if it's one or both, but it can be either.
I'll say testis cancer. and penile cancer. Right now, I am feeling pains in my groin.
He's fidgeting.
Before joining Memorial, the good doctor served as associate professor of urology and chief of section urologic oncology at Tulane University School of Medicine. He went to Penn undergrad. He completed extensive oncologic. This is why I'm not a news reporter or a doctor. He completed extensive oncologic fellowship training at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. Now, John's afraid to come on because I can't pronounce things. John.
Yes.
Are you enjoying your 12 seconds on Surviving the Survivor so far?
So far, so good. I'm just so pleased to be recognized as an expert in penises. All things urologic.
So listen, we are going to have fun with this, but I also want this to be informative. I mean, it goes without saying that any young child who is a boy is fascinated with his penis, really beginning at the age of 2, and then 11, 12, 13, it takes on a whole new life.
No pun intended, but may I interrupt right here?
Please do. Right after I lectured you about not interrupting because it ruins the flow of the show and it's impolite. No, interrupt.
First of all, I want to verify something.
Yeah.
Because,
Speak into the mic. Speak into the mic.
I'm not a militant woman, but shall we have any time for women?
You know, Karn brought up a great point, John. I never knew that urologists, they do help women, right?
Absolutely. We are doctors of the urinary system and the male sexual system. So women have definite urinary systems. So we take care of women with bladder cancer, kidney cancer. Well, I'm a urologic oncologist, but also women have lots of voiding issues and urologic issues.
And
everybody
I prepared a few questions, but I'm very modest and humble. So I let him do his own penis
Well,
thing
the obvious follow-up is, so you've seen your fair share of vaginas as well, correct?
I have indeed. Are we talking about at work or no? Female sexual dysfunction is an interesting thing because I have a feeling we're going to talk about male sexual dysfunction, penises a little bit, but there really is no subspecialty devoted to female sexual dysfunction. And while gynecologists would be the natural sort of people within this field, it's really not a recognized subspecialty of gynecology. And so, there are some people who specialize in female sexual disorder, but they're few and far between. And some of them are urologists.
Let me go right off the track. We were talking before the show. I was asking John about his mother. I hope you don't mind me saying this because she's going to listen, but she was an only child and likes to talk about herself. I never do that. I never do that. But let me digress for one moment, and I just totally lost my train of thought, but it was super important.
Now you're catching it.
Yeah, now it happened to me.
Sweet revenge, because I lose my train of thought.
I know what I was going to say. So I just got a full blood panel, not that I'm a neurotic Jew, but I like to go every 6 months or so. And my testosterone is extremely low, Dr. S. On a scale of 250 to, I believe, 1100, it came in at 250. Now, I guess it is a urological issue, right? Do I need to treat this?
Let him.
I wasn't going to go here, but now I'm glad that we are going.
No. So hypogonadism or low testosterone is extraordinarily common. And interestingly, it's become much more common since drug companies have figured out new ways to make testosterone bioavailable and sell more drugs. So the testing and promotion and awareness of low testosterone has taken on a whole new life, and it is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. But it is true that as men age, their testosterone declines. This is sometimes referred to as andropause, sort of like menopause, except for men. The problem is, we don't exactly know what normal levels of testosterone are for men as they age. And when you look at those values of 250 to 1100, they're based generally around very young, healthy men. The other thing about testosterone that's a little bit weird is that we have a variation in the testosterone we produce throughout the day. So if you've noticed, your son or you early in the morning may have a difference in your penis than later in the day. And that may be in part because of your sleep cycle, but also because of testosterone availability. So when men out there are getting their testosterone checked, it should ideally be done before 10 a.m. And those lab values, if you check at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, it's going to be significantly lower.
Well, I was told that in advance, and I did have my blood drawn while fasting at 7 in the morning. So I think I'm as low as you get. Do I need...
But it's still in the normal range, and I will leave the place if you dwell on it too long, honestly. Because it's boring to me.
Carmela knows everything. She's an expert in every field, including urology. So, but John, let me ask you a question. Do I need TRT? I am perpetually exhausted, and sex drive comes and goes. It's nothing. I mean, like...
Yeah, tell us how much it comes and how much it goes. Because the whole world wants to know, right?
Hey, John, let me tell you something. My dad is turning 88 in November. 88.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And he sits in a wheelchair. And there are multiple times a month where I will call my mother. My dad doesn't like to answer the phone.
I don't care if he embarrasses me.
And she will say, "We are busy," which is a euphemism for, and he is 88. He can't even feed himself because he has shaky hands. I mean, is this like men will do anything at any age? Is this true?
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think it's terrific, and you know what I do? I unplug the phone.
You can't unplug a cell phone.
Yes, I can.
You turn it off. Do not disturb.
Yeah, turn it off.
But no, seriously, John, do I need, not that wasn't serious, but do I mean,
no,
would
but
you, if
this
I can...
happened about 6 months ago, and my daughter-in-law said, "Carm, what were you doing?" I said, "I cannot tell you. It was X-rated."
That's awesome. Good for
Thank you. I also think it's awesome. I really do. And you know what? I still look at him. He sits in. If you saw him, you would think I am psychotic, because he looks like a pathetic old man, and I think he's the cutest guy.
He literally doesn't feed himself anymore because he's got I also inherited a familial tremor, so he's super shaky.
All right, now that we embarrassed everybody.
Yeah, listen, we got off of if I came to Dr. John Silberstein and we did not know each other and we hadn't previously done a podcast, and I said, "Hey, Dr. S, my testosterone is 250 out of 1100. I'm feeling very exhausted. My sex drive's down a little bit." Would you say, "Hey, you should consider TRT," or no?
I would certainly talk to you about the risk, benefits, and alternatives of testosterone replacement therapy. By the way, Carm, women can get testosterone replacement therapy too, just so you know. But again, this is pretty rare, and you need a real sexpert to be involved with all of that.
I was just in August, I was 82, and I'm very happy with my life. I have no complaints.
John, what's the biggest problem with TRT? I mean, why would you, I personally would not want to do it because it's something because you have to be on it for life.
You can talk to him privately. This is going to be the worst.
Informative. There's a lot of guys out there who are trying to figure out if they should go on. There's a whole book written that's called Testosterone by.
Why don't you read this?
I read 3 pages. I get so bored. But John,
no,
bottom line, yes or no? Would you say no?
No, you can't say yes or no. There are many factors. I'll answer for you. Right? Correct?
There are many factors, but I would say that based on what you're describing, you'd be a great candidate to try testosterone replacement therapy and see how it does for you.
But I thought you can't try it. I thought once you go on, you're on for life.
No. So that great question, right? So what happens is when you go on testosterone, your body stops producing testosterone. However, it takes years for that to happen. The concern here is that if you were to be on testosterone for 3, 4, 5 years and then stop it, then your testosterone levels, instead of being 250, would be 0. And if you feel like crap now, you'd feel like crap times 10 then. But it takes years for that to happen. And what I've noticed in my practice is that generally for men around your age who have similar laboratory values to you and want to try testosterone replacement, we can put you on testosterone replacement therapy. And about 10% of people say, "Doc, I cannot believe I was going without this. This is amazing. It's changed my life." About 90% of people say, "Doc, I don't really notice a huge change." And so, for that 90% of people, I encourage them not to continue taking a medication that's not making a significant difference in their lives. But for the 10% of people who it's really the difference between night and day, it can be something worth taking for the rest of your life.
And these are injections?
You can take testosterone replacement therapy in a variety of ways. You can take injections, you can take a gel, you can take a cream, you can even take an intranasal spray.
Huh. And how long would you put me on it to see if I'm that 10%?
Joel,
hang on.
Make an appointment.
I will. How long would you put me on it to see if I am that 10%?
I would say, it takes us a couple months to get you into the normal range, but I would say probably about 4 months or so. Before you make a decision whether it's the right thing for you to continue.
Will my arms be as jacked as yours if I go on it?
If you go to the gym, sure.
Carm, what was your question?
You want to make what is the word, wager?
A bet.
A
wager, not a wager, not a wager.
A wager.
That sounds like a vagina. It's a wager.
Because I would like to win some money. I claim if 10% feel better, if 90% feel better, Joel would still be in the 10% that don't feel better.
We'll see.
It would be a funny little, I would win this one, definitely.
Carmen, you can come to my urology appointments. It'll be great for the podcast. All right, so John.
That would make for a great podcast.
Listen, I would hold his hand in the way.
We're definitely doing this, by the way. Another thing we are planning to do to blow this podcast up bigger than Joe Rogan is...
not because of that. Not because...
Only because of that.
No, I don't agree with you.
We had a...
totally not...
John, we had a... former Marine sniper on, and he's taking Carmela shooting.
No, you are completely killing the story as usual.
No, let's move on here because John has limited time. So John, we were talking right as we were coming on the air, and I was going to try to sneak us on at that point, but it didn't work out. You were saying that in med school, right away, the nut jobs are becoming shrinks, and
the
druggies are becoming anesthesiologists. What made you go into urology?
Can't you just guess from that?
No, what fantasy I had? That you were a late bedwetter.
No, I was okay in terms of bedwetting. Med school is a little bit of a funny thing. When you do a couple of years in the classroom and a couple of years seeing patients, and I thought I wanted to do surgery. I thought I wanted to do reproductive endocrinology. I wanted to make designer babies. I thought it'd be really fun to be on the cutting edge, and so my kids wouldn't need to wear glasses for the rest of their lives, and they could be 6'4". I thought this would be a great thing to do. And my first day of most people who do reproductive endocrinology are gynecologists or OBGYNs. And my first day of my OBGYN rotation, I saw a patient, and she said she was having terrible cramps, and I asked her to describe her cramps, and she said, "Can you just send in a lady doctor?" And I decided that wasn't the right thing for me. And so I probably did a 180 and became a man's doctor for the most part. Although urologists, as we said, see plenty of ladies.
John, we are a dying breed, so I appreciate that. Men, especially white men in their 50s, are a dying breed. So thank you for sticking up for all of us. What is something that almost all men do not know about their own penises?
Let's see. Men are pretty well versed in their penises. I will say that most men don't know that their testicles actually start inside of their bellies. And when you're making fun of your friends and you're saying, "Hey, your guys didn't drop," it's because they actually drop as you mature inside of your mother. And some men even have their testicles drop after they are born. And the reason that is because your guys have to be a little bit cooler than the rest of you in order to keep your sperm safe and healthy. If they're as warm as the rest of you, your sperm would not be able to be produced. How's that for a fact.
That's a fan. No, I love it. I love it.
I even in my 82 years, John Kelter's son Lenny needed the surgery to have he needed a surgery to have, when he was a kid, to drop his...
John, we do a segment, a recurring segment called This Week in Dead and Dying, where
we stopped doing it.
Carmela tells us all her Jewish friends that are dead and dying, but now we can start This Week in Urology.
What?
So what happened to Lenny Kelter?
No, Lenny Kelter is
You better hope she doesn't listen to this.
She doesn't. She probably will listen to this. But it's not a secret. When he was very young, he's now in his 50s.
He's in his 60s.
In his 60s.
By far.
By far.
But wait, his testicles did not drop?
Exactly.
And she was worried about it?
No, the doctor told her he needed surgery to lower the testicle.
Yeah, if you don't have surgery, there's an increased risk of developing testis cancer in these young men.
Luckily, he didn't.
So, John, there's a commercial which I'm sure has piqued your interest, which I'm sure you've seen, for a company called Roman. And it was started by, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was started by a father who's a physician and a son who had some urological issue as a teenager. And basically it is I don't know, I'm giving them a free ad right now, but but they created a very successful app called Roman, which allows men to be in contact with urologists and other physicians related to the male anatomy. I mean, have you found that there is kind of not a stigma, maybe a stigma, but a reluctance on the part of men to come to urologists to see what's going on with their piping?
Yeah, so Roman really, at least the ads I hear and the success that they have is largely based on the ability to prescribe generic Viagra, which is should cost anybody out there who goes to the right pharmacy, it should be about 50 cents a pill. And if you're paying more than that, it's got nothing to do with what type of medicine you're getting, it's what pharmacy you're going to. So go out there and get the best prices and use GoodRx or whatever you want, but it should be pretty inexpensive. And there are some rumors that Viagra may try to get over-the-counter approval from the FDA, in which case it may put sites like that to some extent out of business. But with that being said, yes, men are fearful to go to the doctor in general, and women are generally the health providers for our families. If you ever see an older single man, he is not a healthy guy, just in general. And
you're lucky you got married.
No, you're so lucky you got married.
No, it is true.
Daughters.
Men just let themselves go. If there's no kids.
No, the avoidance.
What is it? Just the psychology of the man? Like, I'm just not.
It's a little, I think it's both. I'm just playing armchair psychologist here, but I think men are taught their whole lives that they're supposed to be strong, that they're supposed to be the caregivers for their family, and that they're not supposed to show weakness or illness. And then this mindset, just pervades over such a long period of time that they just say, I never go to the doctor or I never get sick. And it's tough, and a lot of men have limited experience with physicians or with illness until they're in their 50s or so. And often their first experience with physicians may be the urologist. So
it's also cultural. It's also a cultural thing. Some cultures.
Jewish guys are at the doctor 4 times a year.
Yeah,
Jewish women are still at the doctor 8 times a year. So
this is a weird show.
I am the firstborn of a hypochondriac, so I don't go.
I was just thinking what a weird show this is. This week we're speaking to John about penises. Next week we're speaking to Mark Polymeropoulos, formerly a covert CIA agent who was in charge of 2,000 agents in the Middle East.
For 26 years
we go from penises to spying. So John.
And they're Jews.
Both Jews, even though his last name is Greek. But
dead Jews, I said, last week.
Let me ask you this. What is the single strangest case that you've seen in your time? Is there one?
Oh, boy. I mean, we see some weird stuff. I mean, we see quite a bit of weird stuff. We see weird stuff that we see people who avoid physicians and get into weird situations. Young men with testis cancer. These, your boys start to grow down there. Something's hard. I've seen men avoid going to the doctors for years and wind up with, things that are really quite large, bigger than softballs down there, that are filled with cancer. But then there are people
You would make a great doctor.
There are people who engage in interesting sexual activities. There are rings that men get that put around their penis or their testicles, and then after the action's done, they may fall asleep before they remember to take it off, and it may get stuck there. Some of these things can be tricky to get off.
Jaws of life John, don't always work. Tread gently. He cannot deal with it.
So, Dr. S., let me ask you this, and I need the truth here. So, someone comes in with a ring. I won't say what kind of ring, but we all know. And it's stuck, and he's in the ER, and you have to go see this person. Do you guys completely make fun of this guy, like behind the curtain?
No, never.
Or absolutely not. We would never. We're professionals. Our goal is to provide the best possible care under all circumstances, and we never even smile.
What is penile cancer? Because that, I read that and I was like, whoa, I don't think I knew you could get testicular cancer, but I did not know you could get cancer in your actual penis. So what is it?
Yeah. So it's most commonly squamous cell carcinoma. It's associated with herpes simplex virus or human papilloma virus, rather. Nowadays, a lot of kids are getting vaccines against that, which is terrific.
The boys get too?
The boys are getting them too, yeah.
I didn't know that because my daughter has only 5 girls.
So teenage boys are getting this too. It's much, much more common in men who are uncircumcised.
Why is that?
It's probably because either the virus or bacteria or some sort of irritant is underneath the foreskin, and over time it has the opportunity.
Let me do the women a minute because he's recovering now.
Carm, I didn't know you knew so much about penises, Carm.
No, but I know about women, and let's take a little parenthesis and ask you about women.
Please.
What about them?
Well, one thing is Carm,
you should come to the show prepared, not leafing through your notes.
I'm prepared in my notes.
And talking to the microphone for the 40th time.
Number 1 I wrote down is bladder control, which is not a small thing for women. Second is UTI. Third, prolapsed bladder. 4, stretching of urethra. I don't know what pescary is.
Is there a question in here?
Yes, I will pose the question, but first I will prove that I prepared.
Thank you for this this great line of questioning for me.
What is the question? I still don't know the question.
Well, the question, for example, I know personally in my family somebody who has prolapsed bladder.
Yeah. So women who have given vaginal birth most typically will experience some descent of their bladder such that it pushes on the vagina and begins to prolapse out through the vaginal introitus. Are you listening here, Joel?
I am. I'm looking at my questions. Yeah.
He has attention deficit. Go ahead.
This is more common as women age, both because of changes in the tissue and the elasticity, but also women who are postmenopausal no longer have estrogen in the area of their vagina, which keeps all of this tissue taut, and also to some extent prevents cystitis or infections of the bladder, irritation of the bladder, and UTIs. And so for a lot of women, in fact, the vast majority of women who are postmenopausal, estrogen delivered directly to the vagina can be beneficial to them in preventing UTIs and cystitis. And it doesn't help much with prolapse, but maybe a little bit. And a lot of women get concerned about the idea of estrogen replacement because it's associated with breast cancer when given systemically.
Yeah, right. Too long.
But when just a local cream, much less likely to cause any significant impact on the rest of the
So do you see women in your practice or mostly men?
Yeah, about half and half. Again, I do mostly cancer. So kidney cancer is a little bit more common in men than women, but about equal. Bladder cancer is a little bit more common in men than women because it's associated with smoking, and men traditionally smoke more than women. Penile cancer and testis cancer are more common in men than women, shockingly. But they're both pretty rare, make up a minority of my practice. And then prostate cancer is much more common in men and makes it so it's about 2/3 or 3/4 men and 1/4 or 1/3 women, somewhere around there.
Out of prostate, kidney, and bladder cancer, which is the toughest to treat?
Bladder cancer.
Bladder. If you get bladder, are you dead?
No. So bladder
Not
cancer
yet.
is a little bit weird because about 2/3 of people with bladder cancer have sort of this chronic condition that's just a pain in the behind, and they just need to have their bladder scraped every couple of years or months. But about 1/3 of people need to have their bladder removed, which involves replacement of the bladder with something. And so it's usually a piece of the intestines that we turn into a new bladder or something called an ileal conduit that comes up to the skin.
And how do I know if I have that?
He has everything.
The most common way people find out about this is blood in the urine. So if you have blood in your urine, do not pass go
That's
directly.
red color, constant.
Will that come up on a full blood panel like I just had? Would that show up?
No, on a urinalysis, if they check your urine for blood, you'll see it. But
I had a mother who was a hypochondriac.
So much to worry about in this
and
world.
I have a son.
Okay.
But I have to tell you something that I consider funny. The two of you will probably never think it's funny. I cured my trainer of urinary tract infections.
How?
That was the right question in this moment. But listen, maybe you can use this in your practice.
Is this a female trainer? Or
a female trainer.
And how did you know she had a UTI?
Because she had many during a year.
Okay.
And my trainer is in a fantastic shape, and she's in her late 50s, or I don't want to insult her, probably late 50s. But the point is that she's always in a hurry, runs from thing to thing to thing. Now I, at 82, I know it takes time to void your bladder. It's amazing that for old people, you have to have the patience. He always yells
I don't know if that's proper English, to void your... Is that right, John? Is that a medical term?
That's completely right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I taught her not to jump up in the middle and let the bacteria grow in her. And I'm reporting as my research that now she has no urinary tract infection.
John, what did they say
most people think that the first thing you need to do when you void is to push, but the first thing you're going to do is relax, right?
Yes.
So if you think about it, and a lot of people sort of make that mistake, but a lot of women in particular feel like they have a urinary tract infection and may have signs and symptoms of urinary tract infections, urgency, frequency, even pelvic pain without truly having infections. And so separating urinary tract infections from lower pelvic pain is critical, and especially in a trainer who may very well have a very developed pelvic floor, relaxing those muscles and
having the patience to sit there. Because I personally know I am always jealous if somebody in the next stall enters the same time with me and leaves like 3-4 minutes before me. I become competitive, because I have to sit there longer. Takes time with age.
Carm, I thought I knew everything about you.
You see, the other day somebody asked us, we had...
Look at John. He's like, am I really doing this? Am I really on this show? Is this really happening?
It's not our fault
My
that
career
you
is
are
ruined.
a pee-pee doctor.
So you guys are having a pissing contest right in front of me.
So John, another commercial we see.
This will be the first episode we cannot post.
That's a good title for the podcast, The Pissing Match. So we see these commercials, I do almost daily, especially during football games, of a cucumber with a weird shape to it. Ads for Peyronie's. What is Peyronie's? Who does it happen to? And what do we need to know about it?
There's something called Dupuytren's contracture, which is people may be familiar with it. It's you can develop contractures in a variety of parts of your body. You have certain tissue that can get scarred, and as a result, you can't stretch out your hand fully. Is the most common form of this. Well, it's similar to that. They're believed to be as a result of sexual intercourse most commonly. There's believed to be micro fractures or damage to the penis over time, and those micro fractures of the penis can cause some scar tissue to form. And if you have scar tissue on one side of your penis but not the other, you could imagine when it gets erect, you may have a significant bend in your penis. That can be painful for some men, but not others. And the bend can be so pronounced that it can obviate or at least make it difficult to have sexual intercourse. And that's what Peyronie's is. There is a treatment for it that involves medication that disrupts this scar tissue, this plaque. And it's a collagenase, and it is quite expensive. And again, just like testosterone, because there is a new treatment that is expensive, the world wants you to know that you may or may not have this problem. And if you do, there's a solution for you. So that's why you've been hearing about it more.
That's why you go see the ads in football games.
I like John. He's taking little pot shots at Big Pharma. I love it.
I think you, if you cannot beat them, you have to join them.
So listen, I may or may not know someone who recently had what is known as a penile fracture. That person had a very difficult time. What happens when your penis breaks?
Yeah, so you have this fascial layer, which is basically tough skin or tough dermis or tough tissue that basically traps all the blood in your penis, so that when you get an erection, the blood goes in but doesn't come out. And that's how men get erections. And a fracture is when this layer of tissue gets disrupted, right? You don't truly have a bone in there, so it's not a fracture like breaking your wrist or your arm or your hip, but it's not a fracture of the bone, it's a fracture of this tissue. And if you could imagine, all of that blood now escapes from the erectile tissue and the subcutaneous tissue, and I swear to you, people's penises look like an eggplant when they've had a penis. It doesn't kind of look like an eggplant, it totally looks like an eggplant.
And it requires surgery?
The recommendation, the probability of being able to regain normal erections in the future is pretty dependent on having relatively urgent surgery. So surgery within 48 to 72 hours is strongly recommended for men with a penile fracture in order to preserve this tissue and be able to have erections in the future. If you do not have surgery, you'll be fine, but you may have a defect in this tissue and more difficulty achieving erections in the future.
It's basically like having a hole in your bike tire. Is that right?
That's a good analogy.
Yes. And
Well, you
once
see-
again, if you are called in and they say that, John Smith in bed 3 has a penile fracture, do you and the nurse giggle about this, or is it so commonplace at this point that you just go in and you're like, "What's up, John Smith? Okay, we gotta have surgery."
I mean,
tell me the truth here. Don't give me
Don't tell him the truth.
Yeah.
Don't, because
we never giggle, but we do like to take a good history from the patients and understand what was happening. And often there's a classic story with any medical issue, right? There's a Tommy John injury if you're a pitcher, and there's a classic story for how men develop a penile fracture. And it's most common that the man and the woman are having sex in a cowboy or cowgirl or reverse cowgirl position. And there's a pop that is heard, a classic pop, followed by the eggplant type deformity.
wait a second. What is a cowgirl? I want to live life fully.
John,
I will look it up.
We've hit John, you are the lucky winner of the lowest point on our podcast. I now have to explain to my mother what the cowboy position.
No. I know what the priest. What is it called? The
priest.
No, what is it called?
Now you're getting it.
Missionary.
John, can you please tell my mother what cowboy and reverse cowboy?
I don't tell me. I'll look it up. I know how to Google.
It has to do with
Please,
No,
but
but
I think
I
you
was
could
think-
use your imagination. And you got
Well, I have to tell you that you have a very varied, exciting life, and I wish I wouldn't kill this joke because it's so appropriate for this situation of your profession. When you go to a party, and you say, "Oh, finally, I see faces."
not heads, faces.
I got you.
John, you may have finally helped us propel into Joe Rogan territory with your appearance. A few more questions I need to ask you. You were kind enough over a Rosh Hashanah dinner to share you worked at Tulane, you shared some Louisiana inmate stories. Can you tell us about dice and penises? Real quickly.
Talk to your lawyer first before you
He doesn't
reveal
have
any.
his wife is a lawyer, actually. But tell me about what inmates do with penises and dice.
Well, so inmates sometimes put objects in their subcutaneous tissue. That's the tissue underneath the skin of the penis, and most commonly, I've seen this in people who are in prison, and it can purportedly enhance the sexual experience. But there's a long history of men doing unusual things to their penises, from self-mutilation with we've all heard of a Prince Albert. Carm, you can look that up too.
I don't know what that is. I don't know. I'm afraid to look that up. Never heard of that.
You've never heard of a Prince Albert? It's a penile ring.
Oh.
Okay.
Like a piercing.
A piercing.
Oh.
Yeah. So there are all sorts of things that people do to their penises, but and so certainly putting dice in the subcutaneous tissue is one, but probably the worst thing I see is, and this is actually maybe somewhat valuable for the people listening,
Thank God there's something.
Finally, we are giving value.
For all you inmates listening. For all you guys at what is the
Sing.
No, what's the state prison in Louisiana? It's like the worst prison in the country. Its nickname is the Farm, but what's its name?
All right,
It'll come to me. Anyway, go on, John.
Sorry, John.
No, it's my fault. I can't think of the name. But there are plenty of men who have concerns about the size of their penis, and
Not me.
do all sorts of things.
I tell you, we have no boundaries. But just for the record, I'm extremely proud of myself that since he's maybe 5-year-old,
I've been going to the bathroom on my own.
Exactly. And I refuse to hear his private part tragedies, you know?
Even I'm embarrassed by this podcast.
I thought you were going to say you were proud of him for having a well endowed memory.
No, absolutely. I have no idea. But I have to tell you a very adorable story. My husband had a single 98-year-old uncle who was in one of the hotels here.
Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe. Anyway, Uncle Joe.
You got to give a little backstory. Uncle Joe was one of the sweetest guys. He swam at the 92nd Street Y every day, took the bus across town, lived in Manhattan his whole life. He
was a ladies' man.
He was a ladies' man.
But
he
wait
was
a second,
always
we
dressed
never
to
knew.
nines. Knew nothing about him, but he was always tight with the women.
No, yeah. So
and he ends up at the hold on. He ends up at the Central Jersey home.
No, that's absolutely not the story.
Oh, what's the story?
He was at the Crown Hotel in Miami Beach, and we had to help him. We moved him back to New York, and he went into the bathroom and. At this time, he was 98 and needed help. And my husband went into the bathroom with him, and then he came out. This was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And he goes, my husband comes out, and he looks like this. I said, what happened? He says, Carmela, he has a huge... Because he was a little man, you know, he wasn't...
Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe, yes. We should be proud. He wasn't yours, Roy's father.
Long live Uncle Joe.
Roy's father. So anyway...
Hey, John, does height have anything to do with endowment?
Hands have to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. There's probably some ethnic and racial variation, but I'm not sure if height has something.
Let's close out with two very important questions, and one of them is right in this vein. Can you describe both the smallest and largest penises you've ever seen? Like, how small of a small penis have you seen?
There's a medical term known as a microphallus.
No, really, it's a very serious thing. It's like that's where the borderline between. We are not going into politics.
Carm,
God
let the
forbid.
doctor explain.
Somebody who's ready to intersect.
What's the most microphallus you've seen? And can you show us with a measurement with your fingers, roughly?
No, I can't think of any tiny,
incy pinsy.
Tough to say. I'm not sure I could provide you with any measurements here, but yeah, no, I mean, there's a fair amount of variation in penile size, and you can be a shower or grower. So,
And have you ever
not everybody?
Have you ever seen a penis that is so large that you are just agape in disbelief, saying, wow.
Like Uncle Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some times where we go to do a procedure and we have trouble getting the instruments into the bladder because the men are so well endowed. It happens pretty infrequently, but it can happen where everybody says, "Whoa."
Do the nurses react to that in any strange way?
Sure.
Everybody.
If it's like everything else in this world, there's a bell curve, and people who are beyond 2 standard deviations, everybody's going to lift an eyebrow or two.
Last question for you, John. I know you're going into surgery, and we appreciate the time. Do penises shrink with age? Because men in general shrink.
Yeah, certainly men who undergo prostate cancer surgery may experience some loss in length. And as we get older, we tend to develop a little bit more fat in our suprapubic area, which tends to make things look a little bit smaller. But I do not believe that the total length of the penis gets smaller as we age.
So would you say your job, like, when you deal with cancer all the time, would you say...
John, I swear on my life, every single podcast when I give the cue that we're wrapping, Carmela comes up.
No, but relax. It takes a minute. No, because I admire the fact that you are willing to tackle such a serious thing as cancer. Cancer is no fun, and you're doing cancer basically all day.
The thank you for saying that. We try to have as much levity as we can. A lot of urologic cancers can be cured, and it is such a gratifying thing to be able to help someone tremendously. And a lot of our patients are around for a very long time and remind us about what a difference we've made in their lives every Christmas, every birthday. And so, it can be a really gratifying job, but it can be very disheartening and sad and, humbling experience because we don't always win.
Yeah. No, but I think, I don't know if Joel told you, but our son-in-law does angioplasty, and our daughter is also an MD. And
I thought you were going to say our son-in-law has penile cancer. No, he's a doctor.
He's a doctor, my husband wasn't a real doctor because he was an MD, but he was a psychiatrist. But the real doctors, it's like really I admire it. I forgot my granddaughter is also
Carmen,
a doctor.
anything else you'd like to say to extend this even further?
No, I'm going to let him go. I want
would like
to
to add
thank
one
him.
last
This
thing.
was the craziest session when we
I would like to add one last thing.
we must be anxious about the topic because we acting completely insanely.
Dr.
So we
awesome.
apologize. We apologize.
I wore, just so you know, I specifically wore my black sheep shirt today because everyone in my family is a doctor. I am
Except
not a doctor.
I am not.
I felt for many years, this is why I have a chip on my shoulder, like a loser for not becoming a physician. We interviewed Mark Cuban's brother 2 weeks ago. I told him he was a successful brother because he is a lawyer and Mark Cuban is not. But that is why I wear my black sheep shirt in honor of not being a doctor, which maybe I should.
I thought you were wearing your black sheep shirt because Chi Ali was going to come out and pass the 40 around.
It's too much for Carm.
I hate when it goes over my head.
Dr. John, anything we can plug for you? A new book, a new penis surgery that you're doing? Anything? No?
No new bit. You know what you can plug for me?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, if you watch the NFL, you'll see throughout the month of October, every player out there has got pink shoes on and pink NFL logos everywhere, pink ribbons.
Breast Cancer Awareness
1 in
Month?
5 men on that football field are going to develop prostate cancer. 1 in 5, and yet they're out there promoting women's health awareness. And that's because of Snyder's wife, who was a breast cancer survivor. And breast cancer is an important topic that we should all be aware of, but we should also be aware of men's health issues. Prostate cancer is a disease that inflicts about 250,000 new Americans every year. And we can make a big difference in this disease by getting a simple blood test starting around age 45 or 50, depending on whether you have a family history or not. So please, everybody, don't get scared about it. Go out there, get a blood test. It can be very meaningful in terms of your future risk of prostate cancer and can help you live a much more long and healthy life. So go out there and get your numbers checked. Know your stats.
Beautifully stated. That is the PSA, I believe, correct?
That is the PSA test.
Mine came back clean as a whistle.
Mine also came back okay.
Good.
John, Dr. Silberstein, Jonathan, Dr.
Thank
Jonathan
you. It
Silberstein.
was very nice talking to you.
This was awesome. We're going to do this again at some point if I survive this podcast. But thank you. I know you're off to surgery. Are you going to cure someone with cancer right now?
I always say, I say to my son-in-law, go save lives.
Dr. S, go save lives. I'll speak to you about testosterone soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
I'll probably call you in 20 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for your patience when it didn't start on time.
And John, if you want, we can send this straight to Memorial. They'll be proud of you.
I can't wait. All right.
Okay.
Right back with the news schmooze.
Welcome back. It's time for the news schmooze.
What do you think of Dr. Silberstein?
Oh, now I can say what I think of him?
Yeah.
It's the time.
Once again, we record out of chronological order, so Carmela never knows when she can speak and when she can't. Yes, we just interviewed him.
I think you're very lucky that he's your friend. He's your neighbor too, right?
He's a friend. He's a neighbor. He's a drinking buddy. Every 6 months we go out, but he's funny. I like him.
6 months, you're going to see him 5-6 times more in your life.
We do Rosh Hashanah dinner. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I happen to like him a lot.
I mean, in some ways, our podcast just hit the lowest point, but at the same time,
we
I thought it was
so darn regressed that maybe we will never see
But I thought
this
it was really informative. Honestly, I think that this is what sells in today's day and age. And look, penises are still to a degree taboo. And you heard him say that men show up with grapefruit-sized, watermelon-sized testicles who don't take care of stuff. So we are doing a public service today by trying to help men. You heard John say that 1 in 5 men in America will get prostate cancer, and they're promoting breast cancer in the NFL all month.
And they are preventable.
You know, men are really becoming a forgotten entity in this world. Men.
You know what? Men were ruling for so long that they should not even complain about it.
On to the news, schmooze, Carmel. I'm going to give you something else to worry about. This is something that I've told you now. As Americans are still learning about the hacking for cash crime of ransomware, there's something even more deadly, a digital danger that is deadly. Now, remember a company called Colonial Pipeline? They're natural. You should know them because they're based in New Jersey, not far from where we grew up. They have their refineries right between exits, I believe, 11 and 12 on the New Jersey Turnpike. It says Colonial Pipeline. There are all these refinery thingies, whatever they're called. And they were held, I guess is the term, they were held for ransom. Is that how you say it? But anyway, they were hacked by a company in Russia and eventually had to pay some money. Well, now the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, is warning of something called...
Pronunciation perfect.
Is worried about something called killware or cyber attacks that will literally kill you.
You mean kill your computer?
I'm talking that will kill you. And they actually point to a case in Florida where one of these bad actors, as they say, targeted a Florida water plant, tried to hack in and poison the water, trying to get into the infrastructure. And this is how I believe we will die. Because technology now has become so advanced.
May I say something to you?
Yes.
I think during the Medici or thereabout, they were already poisoning the wells.
What's the Medici? Is this a period of art?
Yeah, during the Renaissance, when they were the rulers of Florence. I'm trying to impress everybody. I hope I'm managing.
So you think that this would have happened already?
No, poisoning the wells. And so, as a matter of fact, it was an anti-Semitic trope. That
the Jews were behind it?
Yes. At that time, that they were looking for a scapegoat. But the point is that poisoning water sounds like a very novel thing. By the way, it's a very interesting little side thing. You remember we had people for lunch on Sunday, and the sun drove them over.
We had you and I had a meeting scheduled for 3 p.m. Sunday, a real serious meeting, irrelevant. And you were an hour late.
No, I was 10 minutes late, and I have witnesses to prove. But the point is that the sun is water. The water.
I feel great today. I feel energized.
Oh my God, this is not normal. I'm so worried now. I haven't been this worried in a long time.
I feel great.
How many times did our audience hear this in the last 35 years?
Let's go to the next story.
No, but wait a second. Their sun, the water they take out of the Hudson River, and then they purify the water, and they work in 12-hour shifts. He had to go to school and pass 18 tests, and they used the Hudson River water and the whole town of Poughkeepsie, New York.
Are you saying Passaic? Are you talking about who are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about these people who came to visit, and he lives in upstate New York, and that's his job, to take care of the water. So it's not so simple to kill people because their water is always, maybe a couple of thousand would be killed, but not all of humanity.
On to the next story. The coronavirus pandemic has forced Americans to reassess their relationships with work. The Labor Department, listen to this statistic. This is pretty mind-blowing. The Labor Department's most recent job openings and labor turnover summary suggests that roughly blank Americans are quitting their jobs each month. What do you think the number is? How many Americans are quitting their job each month? Give me a number.
I think it goes in the millions.
Give me a number.
Millions.
4 million. A survey of 903 workers conducted by the Harris Poll finds that half of working Americans want to make a career change. Why do you think that? Are people just miserable in general? Or do you think that the pandemic was such a seismic event in our world that people are now like, why am I going to sit here and...
Catalyzer, or whatever the term is.
Catalyst. But like,
Catalyst.
why are they going to work at FedEx office for, $12 an hour when they could work at a pizza place or something? I mean, do you think the pandemic is the reason behind this?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't.
Well, listen, I can tell you, life goes by quickly and you die. So do something that you love, like me, which is talking to my mother on a podcast. On to the next
believe me.
Story, and I picked this specifically for you, Dr. Jonathan Silberstein. Would you, Dr. Silberstein, try a new male contraceptive that zaps sperm in order to prevent a pregnancy? That's the concept of a new bath-like device that warms the testicles, reducing sperm mobility. The testicles are placed inside and ultrasounded for a few minutes.
Oh,
the
God.
ultrasound generates deep heat in the testicular tissue. The targeted use of heat alters sperm mobility, which prevents the female egg from being fertilized. So essentially, it's like cooking
the sperm.
Cooking the sperm, but it's literally like a little U-shaped bowl that you drop your testicles into.
You see, I learned from Jonathan.
Yeah.
I learned that the sperms have to be, the reason the bags with the sperms are outside of the body, because they have to be at a lower temperature than the actual body.
Correct.
So this warms them up. It makes me very sick and sad, and I don't want to talk about it.
Makes
any
me
longer.
tingle. We'll be right back with 3 questions for Grandma, but we don't have any, but we'll make some up.
No, we are not.
It's time now for 3 questions for Grandma.
And thank God that Carmela actually saw her grandkids, I think it was just yesterday. Or Monday, the day before, and they went straight to the source and asked you a question, because today, now that I'm working nights, I don't see my kids anymore, which I'm not complaining about, but it's tougher and tougher. Oh, by the way, my daughter said something very sweet.
What did she say? Who Vida?
So Zizi, the middle, said to her mother, I love the weekends because I can just play. And Vita said, I don't love the weekends. I love Wednesdays. And Mommy said, why do you love Wednesdays, Vita? And Vita said, because Wednesdays is podcast day and my daddy does not work late and he can put me to sleep. That's sweet, isn't it?
Very sweet. She's all are very sweet kids.
She's very sweet.
But you are there on the weekends too, and you don't work nights, you work late evenings.
I work late evenings. So what was the question they asked you?
Okay, so this is the 5.5-year-old walked up to me in the playground and she said, Grandma, I have a question for the podcast. How does a zipper work?
Interesting.
And thank God. Oh, and there was a zipper on my fanny pack.
Yeah.
And I even demonstrated it to them. It goes like this.
Do you know what those are called in zipper vernacular?
What?
Teeth. The teeth.
I was kind of suspecting that, but I wasn't sure. And then kind of a flood of memories came into my head about zippers in general, and remembering how many times a garment, the zipper gets stuck on you, and how you suffer. And I had a very melancholy feeling after that.
You know, I came in here with no questions for Grandma, but this might be our best 3 questions for Grandma segment. I have 2 zipper stories for you. I'm 52. In about 3rd grade, I distinctly remember this, and this will be corroborated next week. We are speaking to former covert CIA agent Mark Pomeropoulos. His stepbrother is Matt Kaufman.
26 years of CIA agent.
Correct. His stepbrother, who's also one of my oldest friends, Matt Kaufman. Matt, I hope you're listening to this. In probably third grade, he had a frog named Henry who got lost and then I think died behind his sock drawer. But Matt Kaufman zipped his penis skin into his zipper so aggressively that the penis skin was sticking through the teeth of the zipper, and I think he had to go to the doctor. But we will corroborate that with Mark Pomeropoulos, who will have all the intel on this.
Yes, okay.
The second zipper story
Okay. I hope
happened
it's
just a
even
few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. I'm at a dinner in Miami, and I am told that this person is of extraordinary wealth. That always piques my interest because I'm of ordinary wealth.
You mean jealousy? You piques your jealousy.
Piques my jealousy. So of
you
course,
turn green.
now my wife Ileana would just hear that and be like, "Oh, what are the Kardashians doing?" But me, I say, of course, my follow-up question is, what do they do? If you look at your zipper right now, there's about a 90% chance it will say YYK on it. I think that's the letters, YYK. They are the world's largest zipper company. They make every zipper in the world. However, this guy, whose name will remain anonymous, he's the second largest zipper manufacturer in the world.
Like Avis of zipper.
They need to try harder, but they are number 2 and are extraordinarily wealthy. They've got manufacturing plants here and in Europe, and it's from zippers.
Why is that so strange?
Because in this day and age, you're making money off of apps, off of Bitcoin. It's rare that you're still making that kind of money off of tactile ventures.
All right, that was a beautiful
And our
word.
camera died. So let's call it a day. Love you, America.
I hope, America, you will not judge us by this meeting.
Love you.